My hands lifted the charred pieces of books, but there were no tears in my eyes. People say that if we can't speak, we can't feel either. They're wrong. I, Milton, feel everything, every pain, every broken promise, every shattered dream. This morning when I looked at my small bookstore, only ash and crumbling walls remained. No glass, no shelves, no scent of old books, nothing was left. People said it was an accident, but I saw their eyes last night, those three brothers. Triplet alphas, Julius, Blaine, and Cole. Their names are spoken with fear throughout the entire city. Their construction company is the most powerful here, and they burned down my shop because I refused to sell them this land. I am silent but not blind. 2 days ago, I watched their guards circling my bookstore, taking measurements, marking boundaries. Yesterday evening, Julius himself came wearing his expensive suit, and he handed me a letter, an offer, a lot of money for the land. I had written on my notepad just this. This is my father's memory. I won't sell. He threw my notepad on the ground. His cold blue eyes were filled with rage. You'll regret this, Milton, he had said. If you don't agree nicely, we'll take it our way. And then this morning, this ash, this destruction, I stand here now, among the fragments of my father's memory. I have nothing left. No home, no work, no path forward. My father built this shop with his own hands. His laughter used to echo here, and now everything has turned to smoke. My hands trembled as I picked up a half-burnt photograph of me and my father. I was 10 years old then. My father was smiling. I'm sorry, Papa, I said in my heart, though my voice could never come out. Suddenly, a black Range Rover arrived. The engine stopped. My heart began racing. Fear crept in. Were they back to threaten me again? Julius stepped out, alone. His face looked different today. That cold hatred wasn't in his eyes. Something else was there. Perhaps worry? He walked toward me with slow steps, as if he himself was confused. Milton, he spoke my name for the first time so softly. I pulled out my notepad, my hands still shaking. I wrote, "What do you want now? You already destroyed everything." Julius didn't meet my eyes. He pulled out an old card from his jacket pocket, a hospital card. Did you ever take an elderly man to the hospital? 4 years ago, at 2 in the morning. It was raining, he had a heart attack. My heartbeat stopped. That night, yes, I remember. I was closing my shop late at night. The rain was heavy. A man collapsed on the street, clutching his chest. He was dressed well, probably from some wealthy family, but at that moment he was just a human being who needed help. I ran to him. People tried to stop me. I'm an Omega. They must have thought I was weak, but I lifted him into my car and took him to the nearest hospital. The doctors said if I had been 10 minutes later, he wouldn't have survived. I just looked at Julius. Silent. That was my father. Julius's voice broke for the first time. There was water in his eyes. He never told me. He never told anyone who that mute Omega was who came to save him. The doctor checked old records just 2 days ago, and they found your name, Milton. Your signature was on the hospital forms. My notepad slipped from my hands. You saved my family, Julius said, his voice cracking. You saved my father's life. And I burned down your home. I burned your memories. He buried his face in his hands. For the first time, I saw Julius broken, and I couldn't say anything. I just stood there with my silent heart, where a storm was raging. The wind blew ash around us, creating small whirlwinds of gray dust. Julius's expensive shoes were covered in soot now. His perfect appearance was falling apart, just like his composure. I watched him struggle with words he couldn't find, emotions he'd probably never felt before. This alpha who ruled the city with an iron fist was trembling before me. I picked up my notepad from the ground, wiping the ash off carefully. My father had given me this notepad on my 16th birthday, right before he passed away. It was leather-bound, worn from years of use, filled with conversations I could never speak aloud. Every page held pieces of my life, grocery lists, book orders, conversations with customers, and now, this moment. Julius looked up at me, his perfectly styled hair disheveled, his tie loosened. I didn't know, he whispered. I swear I didn't know it was you. I wrote slowly, each word deliberate. Would it have mattered? He flinched as if I'd struck him. Yes, he said firmly. It would have changed everything. But would it really? I wanted to ask. Would he have cared about a mute Omega's small bookstore if that Omega hadn't saved his father? The question burned in my mind, but I didn't write it down. What was the point? Julius reached into his pocket again and pulled out a worn piece of paper. He unfolded it carefully, as if it were sacred. My father wrote this the day after you saved him. I found it in his study yesterday while looking for something else. He held it out to me. The handwriting was shaky, probably written from the hospital bed. Today a young man saved my life. He couldn't speak, but his actions spoke volumes. He didn't ask my name, didn't want money, didn't seek recognition. He just helped because it was right. Find him, remember him. The world needs more people like him and fewer like us. My vision blurred. Those words, my father used to say something similar. Do good without expecting anything, Milton, he'd tell me while organizing books on the shelves. That's what makes us human. I've been a monster, Julius said quietly. I've taken and taken, never caring who I hurt. Money, power, land, it was all just numbers to me. But you, he looked at the ruins around us. You were real, this was real, and I destroyed it because you wouldn't bend to my will. I wrote, why are you telling me this? Because I need you to know that I understand what I've done. I can't undo it, but I need you to know that I see it now. I see you. The morning sun was rising higher, casting long shadows across the destruction. Somewhere in the distance a bird sang, oblivious to the tragedy here. Life went on, indifferent to human suffering, to guilt and regret, and broken promises. Julius took a step closer, then stopped, as if asking permission. Let me rebuild it, he said. Let me give you back what I took. I shook my head and wrote, you can't give back memories. I know, he said, his voice barely audible, but I can give you a future, a new bookstore, a new home. Not as payment, not as charity, but as the beginning of making things right. I looked at him, really looked at him. Behind the wealth, the power, the alpha dominance, I saw something I hadn't expected. Genuine remorse, real pain, the kind that comes from recognizing your own monstrosity. I wrote one final message before turning away. I need time to think. Julius nodded, not moving as I walked past him toward the street. I'll wait, he called after me. However long it takes, Milton, I'll wait. I didn't look back. I couldn't, because somewhere deep inside, beneath the anger and hurt, a small voice whispered that maybe, just maybe, people could change. And that terrified me more than anything else. Julius lifted his face and looked at me. His eyes were red. This alpha who was always stone-faced now looked completely human. Broken, guilty, perhaps for the first time his pride had cracked. How do I apologize to you? He asked. I don't have the words. I picked up my notepad, my hands still trembling slightly. I wrote, your apology won't bring back my father's bookstore. Julius read the notepad and closed his eyes, as if each word was piercing his chest. I understand, he said. I know money can't bring back those memories, but Milton, please give me one chance. I'll rebuild your bookstore, better than before. Everything. I shook my head. No. Why not? He asked. Frustrated but not angry, he was desperate. I wrote, because you'll never understand what you burned. It wasn't just wood and books, it was my father. It was me. Julius's face fell even further. He took one step forward, then stopped as if he needed permission. Milton, I know I've committed a terrible sin, but if you give me one chance, just one, I'll prove myself. No force, I just want to return what I stole from you. You're right. My heart was confused. This was the same man who threatened me yesterday. And today he's broken in front of me. I wrote, I need time. Julius immediately nodded. Yes, as much as you need. He started turning back toward his car, taking slow steps, but suddenly he stopped. You saved my father because your heart is pure, he said without turning, and I hurt you because my heart was like stone. I want to fix this. Even if you never forgive me, I'll still do it. And then he left. I stood there among my burned bookstore, and a strange feeling was in my chest. Was this real or Julius's new game? The next morning, I was in a small motel where I had temporarily taken refuge. There was no home now. At 7 in the morning, there was a knock. When I opened the door, Blaine and Cole were standing there. Julius's brothers, both held coffee cups and a bag. Blaine smiled awkwardly. Hey Milton. Cole was more serious. He handed me a bag. This is for you. Fresh clothes, toiletries, and some cash. You'll need it. I looked at the bag, then at them. Everything was confusing. I pulled out my notepad. Why are you here? Blaine placed the coffee cups on the table and sat down, completely comfortable as if we were old friends. Because Blaine said, Julius told us everything. You saved our father, and we burned everything you had. This wasn't just Julius's fault. All three of us thought you were just a stubborn Omega who wouldn't give up land for money. We were wrong, completely. Cole pulled up a chair and sat down. We want to fix this, Milton. If you allow us, we'll rebuild your bookstore. And not just the bookstore, your home too. I looked at them. Blaine was friendly with an open face. Cole was serious, but his eyes held honesty. And Julius, he had broken down yesterday. I wrote, "I don't trust you." Blaine nodded. Fair, absolutely fair. But Milton, give us a chance. We'll prove ourselves. Cole placed a folder on the table. Look at this. I opened the folder. Inside was a photograph from the hospital. Their father was in bed, looking weak but smiling. And there was a small note in his handwriting. "The mute boy saved me, Milton. He asked for nothing, not even my name. Find him, protect him. He is family now." My hands started shaking. This was really real. "Father wrote this note 4 years ago," Cole said. "But he didn't tell us because he thought we might harass you, and he was right. We did exactly that." Blaine placed his hand on mine lightly, respectfully. "We're apologizing to you, Milton, truly, and we're with you now. If you'll allow us." Tears came to my eyes for the first time through all of this. I didn't cry, but 1 or 2 tears escaped. Cole handed me a tissue. Quietly, "You're not alone," Blaine said. "Now we're with you, all 3 of us." And in that moment something shifted in my heart. Perhaps these people truly wanted to change. The motel room was small and dingy, with peeling wallpaper and a bed that sagged in the middle. I'd spent the night staring at the ceiling, unable to sleep, replaying everything in my mind. The fire, Julius's confession, the photograph of their father. It all felt surreal, like a fever dream I couldn't wake from. Blaine poured the coffee into paper cups, the steam rising between us. "I know this is a lot to process," he said gently. "We're not asking for immediate forgiveness. We're just asking for a chance to prove we're not the monsters who did this to you." Cole leaned forward, his elbows on his knees. "When Julius came home last night and told us about you, about what you did for our father, I felt sick, physically sick. We've been so focused on expanding our company, on dominating every property deal, that we lost sight of basic humanity." I wrote, "Your father never told you about me?" "No," Cole replied. "He's been different since that night 4 years ago. Kinder, more charitable. He started donating to Omega shelters, funding literacy programs. We thought it was just age making him soft. Now we understand. You changed him. You showed him what real strength looks like." Blaine stood up and walked to the small window overlooking the parking lot. "Our company has built 50 buildings in this city. 50. And not once did we stop to think about the people we displaced, the memories we bulldozed. We just saw obstacles to remove. But you weren't an obstacle," Cole continued. "You were a person with a life, with a history, and we treated you like you were nothing." I looked down at their father's note again, tracing the shaky letters with my finger. The ink had faded slightly, but the words remained clear. "He is family now. Family. I hadn't had family since my father died. The bookstore had been my family. The books, the customers, the quiet comfort of familiar routines." I wrote, "How do I know this isn't just guilt talking? That once you've rebuilt the bookstore you'll disappear?" Blaine turned from the window. We can make promises, but words are cheap, especially from people who've already proven they can't be trusted. All we can do is show up day after day and prove through our actions that we've changed." "Starting today," Cole added, pulling out his phone. "I've already contacted the best architects in the city. Julius is meeting with the building inspector right now to fast-track permits. Blaine has been sourcing materials since 5 this morning. We're not gonna half-measure this, Milton," Blaine said, returning to his seat. "This is our full focus until you have something even better than what we destroyed." I wanted to believe them. Every fiber of my being wanted to trust that this was real, that people could truly change, that redemption was possible. But I'd learned to be careful, to protect myself. Being mute meant I couldn't call for help, couldn't shout when danger approached. I had to be vigilant always. I wrote, "If I agree to this, I have conditions." Both brothers nodded immediately. "Anything," Cole said. "I want to be involved in every decision," I wrote. "This is my bookstore, my father's legacy. I won't have it turned into something unrecognizable." "Absolutely," Blaine agreed. "And I want a contract," I continued writing. "Legal ownership documentation, everything in my name, no company claims, no backdoor deals." "Done," Cole said without hesitation. "I'll have our lawyers draw it up today." You'll own every brick, every beam, every piece of land. I hesitated, then wrote one more thing. And I want to understand why Julius looked so broken yesterday. That wasn't just guilt over a business deal gone wrong. The brothers exchanged a glance. Blaine spoke first. Our father almost died that night. When Julius found out you were the one who saved him, the same person he'd just destroyed, something cracked in him. Julius has always been the hardest of us three, the most ruthless. But beneath that, he's terrified of losing our father. You gave him more years with the man he loves most in the world, and his way of thanking you was to burn down your life. He hasn't slept, Cole added quietly. He's been at the construction site since midnight, planning, measuring, trying to figure out how to make this right. This isn't just about rebuilding a bookstore for him. It's about proving to himself that he's not beyond redemption. I absorbed this information, understanding dawning. Julius wasn't just fixing a mistake, he was trying to fix himself. I wrote, okay, one chance, but if any of you betray this trust, I walk away and you never contact me again. Deal. Both brothers said in unison. Blaine extended his hand for a handshake. I looked at it for a long moment before taking it. His grip was warm, firm, sincere. Cole shook my hand next. Thank you, Milton. You won't regret this. As they left, promising to return with architectural plans, I sat alone in that motel room and wondered if I'd just made the best or worst decision of my life. Only time would tell. From the next day, Julius, Blaine, and Cole came every morning. On the first day, Julius came himself, bringing architects and engineers. He showed me all the plans, what the new bookstore would look like, how big it would be, what design to use. He confirmed everything with me. This is your home, Milton, Julius said as I examined the plans. You'll decide what it looks like. I wrote on my notepad, why are you doing this yourself? You're a CEO. You have people for this. Julius looked into my eyes for the first time so closely. There was something deep in his blue eyes. Because this isn't just any project, he said. This is my sin, and I want to fix it myself, in front of you. Over the next few weeks, this became routine. Julius arrived at 6 in the morning with construction workers. Blaine managed materials, wood, new book orders, paints, tiles. Cole handled finance and legal documents, so there wouldn't be any issues. But the strangest thing was, these three brothers also worked themselves. Julius took off his expensive shirt, wearing jeans and a simple t-shirt, mixing cement. Blaine built shelves. Cole painted walls. One day I wrote to Julius, you don't have to do manual labor. You're an alpha, a CEO. Julius stopped his work, came to me and sat down, tired but content. Milton, he said, I want to show you that I can do something for you, not just with money but with my own hands. Because you saved my father with your own hands. You're an Omega, yet you lifted him. So I can do this too. His words touched my heart. Perhaps one day Blaine tried to make me laugh. He brought an old joke book that he'd found at the construction site. Milton, listen, why don't skeletons fight each other? He asked, excited. I shook my head, didn't know. Because they don't have the guts, Blaine said, and started laughing at his own joke. I smiled for the first time in front of these people. Blaine's eyes lit up. Oh my God, you smiled. Guys, Milton smiled. Julius and Cole came running. Seriously? Cole said, surprised. Julius just stared at me, and there was something in his eyes, warmth, softness. Your smile is very beautiful, Julius said, then got embarrassed and went back to work. Blaine winked at me. My brother has a crush on you, Milton. I blushed, couldn't control it. At night, Julius sometimes stayed alone. I could see he worked late by himself. One night I was also awake late in the motel and thought I'd check the construction site. When I arrived, Julius was there alone, under a small lamp, carving on wood. I walked up and looked. He had written my father's name on the wood. In memory of Milton's father. This will go at the bookstore entrance, Julius said when he saw me. So everyone knows whose memory this is. I couldn't hold back my tears. I cried quietly, but I cried. Julius stood up and came to me. I'm sorry. I made you cry again. I shook my head and wrote on my notepad. These are good tears. Julius took my hand for the first time, gently, respectfully. His touch awakened my Omega instinct, the scent of alpha pheromones, cedarwood and rain. It felt safe. Milton, he said, I promise you I'll never hurt you again. Never. And that night I thought for the first time, maybe Julius wasn't just guilty. Maybe he genuinely cared. The construction site had transformed over the past 3 weeks. What was once just ash and rubble now had foundations, framework, walls beginning to rise. The skeleton of the new bookstore was taking shape, and with it something else was building. Trust, fragile and tentative, but real. I started visiting the site every day, watching the progress. Julius was always there, often before the workers arrived, sometimes staying after they left. He'd roll up his sleeves and work alongside them, his hands getting calloused and rough. This wasn't for show. He genuinely seemed to need this physical labor, as if every nail he hammered was penance for the destruction he'd caused. One afternoon I found him struggling with a heavy beam. Without thinking, I moved to help, grabbing the other end. Julius looked startled, then grateful. "Thank you," he said quietly as we maneuvered it into place. "I wrote teamwork." He smiled a real smile, not the practiced one I'd seen in photos of him at business events. This smile reached his eyes, creating small lines at the corners. "Yes, teamwork." Blaine arrived then with lunch for everyone. He'd taken to bringing food daily, claiming the workers needed proper nutrition. But I noticed he always made sure there was extra. Always made sure I got the first choice. "Milton," he called out, "I brought that soup you liked last week, and before you ask, yes, I remembered no cilantro." It was a small thing, remembering my preferences, but it mattered. These small gestures were adding up, creating a foundation of care that I hadn't expected. Cole appeared from inside the structure, covered in paint. "The interior walls are ready for the second coat. Milton, do you want to check the color before we continue?" I nodded and followed him inside. The space was larger than my old bookstore, with higher ceilings and more natural light. Cole had positioned windows perfectly to catch the morning sun. I'd mentioned once that I liked reading in morning light, and he'd remembered. "We're installing built-in shelves here," Cole explained, pointing to one wall. "Stronger than freestanding ones. They'll hold more weight, last longer." I wrote, "This is more than I had before." "That's the point," Cole replied. "We're not just replacing what we destroyed. We're giving you something better, something that honors what you lost while creating new possibilities." As we walked through the space, I could envision it. Books lining the walls, comfortable reading chairs in the corners, maybe a small coffee station for customers. My father would have loved this. The thought brought both sadness and joy. That evening, after the workers left, I stayed behind with Julius. We sat on the front steps of the emerging building, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and purple. Julius had brought his carving tools and was working on another piece of wood. This one had an intricate design of books and vines intertwining. "What's this for?" I wrote. "The sign," he said, "for above the entrance. I thought you might like something handcrafted rather than generic." He showed me his sketch, Milton's books in elegant script, surrounded by the vine pattern. I wrote, "It's beautiful. I'm glad you think so. I've been practicing. Turns out I'm not very good at carving, but I'm stubborn." I smiled at that. Stubborn was an understatement. Julius attacked every task with single-minded determination, as if he could rebuild not just the bookstore but also his entire character through sheer willpower. "Can I ask you something?" Julius said, setting down his tools. I nodded. "That night you saved my father. Did you know who he was? Did you recognize him?" I shook my head and wrote, "I just saw someone who needed help." "That's what makes you extraordinary," Julius said softly. "Most people would have checked first. Is this person worth helping? Can I gain something from this? But you just acted because it was right." I wrote, "My father taught me that everyone deserves help, regardless of who they are. Your father raised an incredible person. I wish I could have met him, thanked him for creating someone who would one day save my father and teach his sons about basic human decency." There was no response I could write to that, so I just sat there, shoulder to shoulder with Julius, watching the day fade into night. Over the following days, a rhythm developed. Mornings were for construction work, afternoons were for planning and design discussions, evenings were for quiet moments, sometimes with all three brothers, sometimes just with Julius. Blaine taught me card games during lunch breaks, his easy humor making everyone laugh. Cole discussed books with me, discovering we had similar tastes in mystery novels. And Julius was simply present, steady and reliable in a way I'd never expected. The bookstore was rising from the ashes, board by board, brick by brick. But something else was rising too, the possibility of forgiveness, the beginning of something new. I wasn't sure what to call it yet. Friendship seemed too simple, redemption too grandiose. Maybe it was just healing for both of us in different ways. Whatever it was, I found myself looking forward to each day, to seeing the progress, to these moments of connection with three alphas who had started as my destroyers and were becoming something else entirely. 3 weeks had passed, and the bookstore's walls were rising again. Shelves had been installed. New windows were set in place, and the painting was nearly finished. Everything looked more beautiful than before, yet my father's memory lived in every corner. Julius talked to me more now. Small conversations. Sometimes he'd ask which books I preferred. Other times he'd share stories about his childhood, how he and his brothers were always competitive, but ultimately fought for each other when it mattered. One day he asked me, "Milton, have you ever dreamed about having your voice? If you could speak, what would be the first words you'd say?" I thought about it, then wrote, "I'd say, Papa, I miss you." Julius held my hand. "He can hear you, I'm certain of it." In that moment something existed between us. A connection. Julius's scent grew stronger. Alpha instinct perhaps, or maybe. Blaine noticed again. He'd wink at me quietly whenever Julius moved closer. One day Cole spoke to me privately. "Milton, are you all right? I mean, Julius is becoming quite attached. If you're uncomfortable, we can—" I shook my head and wrote, "I'm okay, he's different now." Cole smiled. "Yes, you're making him a better person." The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the construction site. I watched Julius instruct workers on the placement of a custom-built reading nook, something I'd sketched on my notepad weeks ago. He'd remembered every detail down to the cushion colors I'd preferred. "The natural light needs to hit this corner at precisely 10 in the morning," Julius explained to the carpenter. "Milton likes to organize new arrivals then, and he should have the best lighting." My heart warmed at his attention to such specifics. These weren't just gestures anymore. They were genuine acts of care, small pieces of understanding that built something larger between us. One evening, Julius surprised me. After the day's construction work, he guided me to his car. "Where are we going?" I wrote. "You'll see," he simply said. We stopped in front of a large house, Julius and his brother's family home. My heart raced. Fear crept in. "My father wants to meet you," Julius said. "Please, he really needs to see you." I felt scared. But Julius's eyes held a request, not force. We went inside. The house was enormous, yet it felt warm. Family photographs lined the walls. Soft lights created an inviting atmosphere. Then in a large living room, their father sat there. White hair, strong build, but with a gentle smile. When he saw me, he stood up, slowly, his health still fragile. "Milton." He spoke my name as if it were something precious. He walked toward me and suddenly embraced me, tight, warm, fatherly. "Son," he said, his voice thick with emotion, "you saved my life. I can never forget you." Tears filled my eyes. This embrace, it felt like my father's. He released me and looked into my eyes. "You asked for nothing that night. You just took me to the hospital. You showed humanity, Milton. And my sons, they hurt you. I'm ashamed." I pulled out my notepad, hands trembling. "You don't need to apologize for them. They're making it right." He held my hand. "Yes, and now I promise you, you're my son now. Part of our home. We'll never leave you alone." Julius stood beside me, holding my other hand, offering support. "Milton," his father said, "I have 3 sons. As of today I have 4. And that night, for the first time in 4 years, I felt it. I was part of a family. The dinner table was set with care. Fine china, crystal glasses, home-cooked food that filled the air with rich aromas. Their father insisted I sit at his right hand, a position of honor that made me uncomfortable at first. "Don't be shy," he said kindly. "You belong here." Blaine served the food, making jokes about his cooking skills. I burned the garlic bread twice before getting it right. Cole had to supervise. "Someone has to," Cole replied with mock seriousness. "Otherwise you'd serve us charcoal." Their easy banter reminded me of how my father and I used to communicate, him talking, me responding through gestures and written words, yet understanding each other perfectly. Julius sat across from me, his eyes never straying far. Every time I reached for something, he anticipated my need, passing the water pitcher before I asked, offering bread when my plate emptied. "You're hovering, Julius," Blaine teased. "Give Milton some breathing room." "I'm not hovering," Julius protested, though his slight blush suggested otherwise. Their father watched this exchange with knowing eyes. "It's good to see you care about someone, Julius. Really care, not just feel obligated." After dinner, Julius took me outside to the garden. Stars sparkled overhead, and cool air brushed against our skin. "Milton," Julius said, nervousness evident in his voice. I want to tell you something. I looked at him attentive. He pulled a folded letter from his jacket pocket. Read this, please. I opened the letter. It was handwritten, Julius's script. Milton, I know you can't speak, but I want you to know, your silence speaks louder than any words I've ever heard. When you saved my father, you didn't ask for recognition, money, or anything. You just did what was right. That's the kind of person I destroyed, and I'll regret that for the rest of my life. But I also want you to know something else. These past weeks, working beside you, seeing your strength, your kindness, your smile, I've realized something. You're not just someone I owe. You're someone I care about, deeply. I don't know if you feel anything for me. I don't even deserve to ask, but I needed you to know. I want to protect you, not because of guilt, but because you matter to me, more than I can say. If you ever feel the same, even a little, please give me a chance. I'll spend every day proving I'm worth it. Yours, Julius. My hands trembled. This was a confession. I looked at Julius. He waited, nervous, vulnerable, completely un-alpha-like. I pulled out my notepad and wrote, "Why me? I'm just a broken omega with no voice." Julius took my hand, both hands actually, because he said, his voice soft, "You're the strongest person I've ever met. You lost everything and still didn't harbor hatred. You forgave me, or at least gave me the chance to earn forgiveness. And Milton, your silence contains more truth than my voice ever has. You're perfect." A sweet ache filled my chest. Something like love. "I won't force you," Julius continued. "If you feel even slightly that this is possible, please give me one chance. I'll never hurt you again. I promise." I placed my hand over his, wrote, "I'm scared. What if you regret this? What if I'm not enough?" "Milton." Julius cupped my face in his hands, gentle touch. "No one could be more enough than you. And regret? My only regret is that I didn't recognize you when we first met. But now I'll never let you go. If you'll allow me." And that night, I let an alpha into my heart for the first time. Willingly, truly. I wrote, "Okay, one chance." Julius's smile, it was everything. He embraced me, tight, warm, safe, and his scent wrapped around me. Cedarwood, rain, and now, home. The garden seemed to hold its breath around us. Moonlight filtered through the trees, casting silver patterns on the ground. Julius held me like I was something precious, something he'd been searching for without knowing. "Thank you," he whispered against my hair. "Thank you for seeing past what I did, for believing I could be better." I couldn't respond with words, but I held him tighter, hoping he understood. Sometimes silence communicated more than any language could. When we finally separated, Julius kept my hand in his, interlacing our fingers. "Come on," he said. "Let's go back inside before my brothers send out a search party." As we walked back toward the house, I noticed their father watching from the window, a satisfied smile on his face. He raised his hand in a small wave, and I waved back. Everything felt different now. The fear that had gripped me since the fire was slowly dissolving, replaced by something new: hope, possibility, maybe even happiness. Julius opened the door for me, and as I stepped inside, I realized something profound. Home wasn't just a place. It was people who cared, who showed up, who chose you every single day. And perhaps, just perhaps, I had found that here. 2 months had passed, and the bookstore was nearly complete. Shelves were being filled with new books, classics my father loved and new releases too. Julius had created a special corner exclusively for my father's favorite books. Every detail was perfect. Julius no longer came just for construction work. He came to see me. Every morning he brought coffee. Sometimes we shared lunch. Sometimes we just sat arranging books together, silent but comfortable. Blaine and Cole had also grown closer. Blaine showed me funny videos, and Cole tried teaching me cooking, though I already cooked well, but he claimed it was family tradition. One day Julius seated me in his car again. "We're going somewhere special today." We drove to a small hill where the entire city was visible. The sunset was happening, the sky painted orange and pink. Julius held my hand. "Milton, since you came into my life, everything feels better. Before I only worked, made money, wanted power. But now I want to come home, to you." I looked at him, my heart racing. "I know this might seem too soon," Julius said, "but I want to make you a promise. If you'll allow me, I'll be your home, your protection." I wrote on my notepad, "You already are." Julius kissed me for the first time. Soft, gentle, respectful. His lips were warm and his alpha scent surrounded me. My omega instincts responded, but this wasn't just biology. These were feelings. Real ones. When the kiss ended, Julius rested his forehead against mine. "I love you, Milton," he whispered. "Even without your voice, I hear your heart. And it's the most beautiful sound I know." I placed my hand on his chest, felt his heartbeat, then wrote on my notepad, "I love you too, Julius." He embraced me again, tight as if he never wanted to let go. The hilltop became our sanctuary over the following weeks. We'd drive up there after work, watching the city lights flicker to life as darkness fell. Julius would bring blankets, and we'd sit wrapped together, talking. Well, he'd talk and I'd write, but it felt like real conversation. "I used to hate silence," Julius admitted one evening. "In business meetings, silence meant uncertainty, weakness. I'd fill every gap with words, strategies, demands. But with you, silence is peaceful, it's honest." I wrote, "Silence lets you hear what matters." "Exactly," he said, kissing my temple. "You've taught me that actions speak louder. Every day you show me what integrity looks like." Blaine started teasing us relentlessly. "You two are disgusting," he'd say with a grin. All those lovesick looks across the construction site. "Julius literally sighs when you walk in." "I do not sigh," Julius protested. "You absolutely do," Cole confirmed. Like a Victorian gentleman in a romance novel. I hid my smile behind my notepad, enjoying their brotherly banter. The next week, the bookstore had its grand opening. The entire neighborhood came. Julius, Blaine, and Cole had arranged everything: decorations, refreshments, music. But the most special moment came when Julius gave a speech in front of everyone. "Ladies and gentlemen," Julius said, confident yet emotional, "this bookstore isn't just a shop. It's a memorial to one person, Milton's father, and it's also a symbol of one person's strength, Milton's." Everyone looked at me. I felt nervous, but Julius held my hand. "I did something terrible to Milton," Julius openly admitted. "I burned down his home. I destroyed his memories, but Milton forgave me. He taught me about humanity. And today I want to say in front of everyone, Milton, you are my life. And this bookstore, this is our home." People applauded. Blaine and Cole were smiling, and Julius's father stood there with tears in his eyes, proud. I looked at Julius and smiled, a big one. He winked at me. "Is that smile for me?" I nodded. "Yes." The celebration continued into the evening. Customers browsed the shelves. Children sat in the reading nook. Elderly couples reminisced about old bookstores from their youth. The space felt alive, filled with exactly the energy my father had always wanted. Cole had set up a small refreshment station where he served coffee and pastries. "Milton's special blend," he announced to customers. Recipe courtesy of his father's old notes. I hadn't known Cole had found those notes. My father used to make a specific coffee blend for special customers: cinnamon, cardamom, a hint of vanilla. Tasting it again brought tears to my eyes. "Too strong?" Cole asked worriedly. I shook my head and wrote, "Perfect. Just like he made it." Cole's expression softened. I'm glad. I wanted everything to honor him properly. Blaine was entertaining a group of children with dramatic readings from adventure books, using different voices for each character. Their laughter filled the space, and I realized this was exactly what my father had envisioned. A place where stories came alive, where community gathered. As the crowd thinned, Julius's father approached me. "Your father would be proud," he said quietly. "Not just of this place, but of the man you've become. Facing tragedy with grace, forgiving when you had every right to hate. That takes remarkable character." I wrote, "He taught me that holding anger only hurts yourself." "Wise man," he replied. "I wish I'd known him. He would have liked you." I wrote, "You both believe in second chances." His eyes grew misty. "Thank you, son. That means more than you know." Night came and everyone left. Only Julius and I remained inside the bookstore. The lights were dimmed and my father's photo gleamed on the shelf. Does it feel real?" I wrote. Julius pulled me close. "Completely real, Milton. We are real." He handed me a small box. "This is for you." I opened it. A key lay inside. Confused, I looked at him. "There's an apartment above the bookstore," Julius explained. "I had it built for you, your own space, safe, warm, and if you'll allow, our home." Happy tears filled my eyes. "You can live here," Julius said. "And I'll stay with you if you want." I placed my hand on his chest and nodded. "Yes, absolutely." Julius kissed me, deeper this time. His hands rested on my waist, protective. My heartbeat synchronized with his. "You're mine, Milton," he whispered, "forever." And I wrote on his hand slow clear, "And you're mine, forever." We climbed the stairs to the apartment. It was furnished beautifully, comfortable furniture, warm colors, shelves already stocked with books. But what caught my attention was a wall covered in photographs, pictures of my father and me at various ages. Julius must have gathered them from what remained after the fire had them restored and framed. "I wanted you to have your memories back," Julius said softly, "in a place where they're safe." I turned to him, unable to express how much this meant. Instead, I wrapped my arms around him and held on tight. "Welcome home, Milton," he whispered into my hair. "Welcome home." That night, lying beside Julius in our new home, listening to his steady breathing, I understood something my father once told me. Sometimes life takes everything away, but if you stay strong, it gives you something better in return. I'd lost my home, my bookstore, my sense of security, but I'd gained a family, a love deeper than I'd imagined possible, and a future bright with promise. Julius's arm tightened around me in his sleep, and I smiled in the darkness. Yes, I was finally home. 4 months had passed. The bookstore had become the neighborhood's favorite place. People came, read books, and communicated with me through my notepad. No one found me strange. Everyone understood. Julius now officially lived with me in the apartment. Every morning he made me breakfast. Yes, an alpha cooking for his omega. Blaine would say, "Brother, you're totally whipped," and Julius would just smile. Cole had set up an online system for the bookstore so people could order remotely. Business was thriving, and best of all, I was happy. One night Julius and I were on the rooftop. We watched the stars, wrapped in a blanket. "Milton," Julius said, "you know I never thought I'd fall in love. I mean, my life was only work, but then, you changed everything." I looked at him, smiling. "You saved my father, and unknowingly, you saved me too. From a life that was only hungry for money and power." I wrote on my notepad, "You saved me too, from loneliness." Julius kissed my hand. "I'll always stay with you, promise." Then he pulled a small box from his pocket. My heart stopped. "Milton." Julius opened the box, a simple silver ring. "But beautiful. I know the official bonding between us hasn't happened yet, but I want to give you this, a promise that you're mine, always." Tears filled my eyes. "I want to marry you, Milton," Julius said, emotional. "Legally, officially, in every way, will you be my life partner?" I dropped my notepad, just nodded. "Yes, yes, yes," repeatedly. Julius kissed me, then slipped the ring onto my finger. "Perfect fit." "I love you so much," Julius said. And I placed my hand on his chest, feeling his heartbeat, which was now mine too. The ring caught the starlight, creating tiny prisms of light that danced across our joined hands. Julius traced the band with his thumb, his touch reverent. "I had it engraved," he said softly. "Look inside." I slipped it off and angled it toward the moonlight. In delicate script, "Your silence is my home." Fresh tears spilled down my cheeks. Julius wiped them away gently. "Too much?" he asked, concerned. I shook my head and wrote, "Perfect. Everything is perfect." We stayed on that rooftop until dawn began to paint the sky pink and gold. Julius held me close, occasionally pressing kisses to my hair, my forehead, my cheeks. Every touch felt like a promise, a commitment to something permanent and real. "I want to do this right," Julius said as the sun rose. "Meet with my family's lawyer, make everything legal and binding. I want the world to know you're mine and I'm yours." I wrote, "When?" "As soon as possible," he replied. "Unless you want a long engagement. We can wait if you need time." I shook my head and wrote, "I've waited long enough for happiness. Let's not waste any more time." His smile could have lit the entire city. The next month a small wedding took place. Only close family and friends attended. Blaine and Cole served as best men. Julius's father gave me his blessing, and once again called me son. When Julius and I stood at the altar, hands clasped, it felt like a dream, but it was real. The officiant said, "You may kiss your omega." Julius cupped my face in his hands and kissed me in front of everyone. Soft but passionate, an alpha claiming his omega, and I was happy. The crowd applauded. Blaine shouted, "Finally, my brother got married." Cole hugged me afterward. "Welcome to the family, Milton," officially, and Julius's father gave me a small diary. "This is from your father's side," he said. "I thought if he were here he'd give you this." I opened the diary, Blank pages, but on the first page was written in Julius's father's handwriting. Milton, son, your new life is beginning. Write your story, be happy. Your father is watching you and is proud. I cried, but these were tears of joy. Julius took me in his arms. Are you all right? I nodded. Yes. For the first time, I was completely all right. The reception was intimate, held in the bookstore's main room. Someone had strung fairy lights across the ceiling, creating a canopy of warm light. Tables were laden with food and soft music played from speakers Cole had set up. First dance? Julius asked, extending his hand. I hesitated. I'd never danced before, never had the chance. Julius saw my uncertainty. I'll lead, he promised. Just follow my steps. And if we stumble together. He guided me to the cleared space that served as a dance floor. As the music started, a slow, sweet melody, Julius placed one hand on my waist and held my other hand gently. Just feel the rhythm, he whispered. Don't think, just feel. We swayed together, and gradually I found the pattern. Julius was right. When we stumbled, we laughed and continued. Nothing had to be perfect. It just had to be us. Blaine cut in halfway through. My turn with my new brother, he declared, spinning me away from Julius. Hey, Julius protested, but he was grinning. Blaine danced more energetically, making exaggerated movements that made me laugh silently, my shoulders shaking with mirth. There's that smile, Blaine said. You should smile more, Milton. It suits you. Cole danced with me next, more sedate and proper. Thank you for making Julius human again, he said quietly. He was turning into a machine before you. Now he laughs, he hopes, he dreams. You gave him that. When Julius reclaimed me for the final dance, he held me closer than before. This is the best day of my life, he murmured. And I get to spend every day after with you. Today, 1 year later, I'm in my bookstore. The shelves are full of books. Customers come and go. Blaine and Cole sometimes help out. And Julius, he comes home every evening, embraces me, and says, "How was your day, love?" I write on my notepad, he reads it, and we make dinner together. Sometimes at night when we're in bed, Julius holds me in his arms and says, "You know, Milton, you taught me what life means. You made me human." And I rest my hand on his chest, listening to his heartbeat, which is now our heartbeat. My father used to say, "Son, sometimes life takes everything away. But if you stay strong, it gives you something else, something much better." Today I understand. My home burned down. My shop turned to ash. But from that ash, a new home was built, a new family was found, and an alpha who sees me not just as an omega, but as his entire world. I'm still silent. But now my silence has a voice too. The voice of love, the voice of home, Julius's voice. And this is my perfect story. The bookstore closes at 9. Julius always arrives at 8:30, helping me with the final tasks. Tonight, as we lock the door and climb the stairs to our apartment, I notice how natural this has all become. Julius makes tea while I change into comfortable clothes. We settle on the couch, my head on his shoulder, his arm around me. "Read with me?" he asks, holding up the book we've been working through together. I nod and he begins reading aloud. His voice washes over me, familiar and comforting. Occasionally, he pauses to ask my opinion on a character's choice, and I write my thoughts for him to read. This is our routine. This is our life. This is our happiness. Later, in bed, Julius traces patterns on my back until I grow drowsy. "I love you," he whispers, as he does every night, and I tap 3 times on his chest. Our code. 3 taps, 3 words. "I love you too." In the darkness, I smile. My father was right. Life took everything, but it gave me something infinitely better. It gave me home. It gave me family. It gave me Julius. And I wouldn't change a single moment of this journey, because every painful step led me exactly where I needed to be, here in the arms of the man who destroyed me and then rebuilt me into something stronger, something whole. This is my story. This is my ending. Or rather, this is my beginning.